Next presentation will be Cinepad Project Petaflopic Infrastructure by Antonio Tadeo Gomez. Antonio Tadeo Gomez is a researcher at the National Laboratory of Scientific Computing in Brazil. He is currently the executive officer of the Brazilian National System of High Performance Computing. He received his PhD in computer science from the Pontifical Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 2005. His main research topics are in distributed computing, grids clouds, and software architecture, modeling languages, as well as their employment in an application domains such as healthcare, finite element analysis, and e-science. Please welcome Antonio. Back, forward, and pointer. And please don't get so closer to the microphone. Okay.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, the organizers, for the invitation, CONACYT, CNS, and BU, and it's a pleasure to be here and provide you some information about our experience with the development of an HPC ecosystem in Brazil, and especially the new project that we've been working for a while with BU, and that finally we have, I think, concrete good news regarding. Alberto is happy with that. Regarding the provisioning of a petaflopic infrastructure in Brazil. The title is a little bit different from what has been announced. It's science, technology, and innovation in Brazil from perspective of the Cinepad system. And I'm here representing Pedro Dias, which is the general coordinator of the Cinepad system. So first of all, what is Cinepad? Well, Cinepad stands for Sistema Nacional de Processamento de Alto Desempenho, which I think it's quite clear even for a Spanish speaker what does it mean. It's the Brazilian National System for High Performance Computing. The Cinepad system was, until 2004, in fact, a project from FINEP, which is a Brazilian funding agency. And in 2004, the Brazilian government, through a presidential decree, defined and established the Brazilian national HPC system, the Cinepad system, with some specific roles: provide on-demand HPC service to the Brazilian research and development community and industry. This "and" is important because we are not doing that now. The idea of the Cinepad system is to provide open science support to the Brazilian community, so we are not restricted to a specific application domain. So we provide services to chemistry, to physics, to people from applied mathematics, engineering, so on and so forth, bioinformatics, so on and so forth. Also to give support to the development of HPC applications and foster education in HPC. The overall management of the Cinepad system is the responsibility of the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, and MCTI. And in 2006, the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation delegated the responsibility for running the system to, officially delegated, it was already being done by us, but it was delegated to, officially delegated to LNCC, which is a research unit from the ministry, and it's located in a hilly area in the Rio de Janeiro state, 70 kilometers from the Rio de Janeiro city. So since then we've been developing some projects to try to keep the Cinepad system updated and providing services to the Brazilian community. The Cinepad system, it is basically an integration of running HPC centers, which are called Cinepads. It was a bad name choice because we always make the confusion between the Cinepad, the Brazilian overall system, with SI, and the Senapad HPC centers, which are regional centers, which are part of the Sinapad with SI system distributed throughout the country. The financial model of the Sinapad system is based on a cooperation agreement between the Ministry of Science and Technology and the research units and universities that host the machines. So basically, MCTI provides funding for the machines and temporary personnel, and each center provides the necessary infrastructure, power, cooling, and permanent personnel for running those machines. It's a model that we've been discussing for a while. It's if it's good or not, and the idea is to think of it and try to make it a better model. The current configuration of the system, so we have those 9 centers which are distributed throughout the country. The LNCC, which is the overall manager of the system, is also an HPC center. It has its own HPC resources, and we have also resources they are basically near the sea, but we also have a newer center in Manaus, basically for biodiversity and climate applications. This is an interesting thing because, to mention, each center has its own, let's say, personality. So LNCC is mainly focused on numerical methods, numerical algorithms, and some applications. NACAD is more engineering centered. Sinapad from Pernambuco in the northeast has the majority of its users are from chemistry, and CPTech, which is more related with climate and the weather forecast, and so on and so forth. Well, the Sinapad system is a resource zoo. We have machines from all over, all possible vendors, except 1 or 2 that we had in the past, but we are not part of the system now. Well, in this web page, you can have a more detailed information about the resources. So just to see the vendors that with whom we've been working the last years, but giving just a zoom on the numbers, on the figures about the machines, you can see that we don't really have big machines. We have a good amount of small machines. Some of those machines are a little bigger than the others, but basically machines with small capacity, overall capacity. Over this infrastructure, we've been deploying Brazilian technology for the middleware and integration software for making either the Sinapad resources and also other resources such as cloud resources or opportunistic resources being provided to the users through higher level interfaces, basically scientific portals. We've developed a bunch of them. We are also providing scientific workflow management systems that allow the users to employ these resources in an integrated way. Regarding usage, we've been witnessing a good improvement on the usage of the systems, and the interesting thing about this figure is that we see some changes here in the derivative of this curve, and these they coincide with updates in the infrastructure. So basically the message here is whenever you put flops, the guys go and use it. So what we expect is that if you put a lot of flops, they are going to use a lot of it. But what we have been providing to the scientific community, is it enough? Definitely not. Well, if you compare Brazil with the rest of the BRIC countries, Brazil, China, Russia, and India, we can see that historically we've been very near those countries, but more recently we've been not able to keep up with the amount of resources that appear, for instance, in top 500 list. So we are lagging. Basically, we are lagging behind. But we do have some in the list. So the newest list, we can see four machines from Brazil. The first one has been quite recently set up in the Cimatec Center, which is a center which is basically maintained by industry, and they are now part of the CINAPAD system. I'm just not showing them in our figures because the agreement has not been officially signed. So, but they are now informally part of the system, of the CINAPAD system. But we also have other machines. Petrobras, of course, has some entries in the top 500 list. INPE, which is the National Institute for Space Research and Weather Forecast, also appears in the list. But in all those cases, these machines are not for open science. They have very specific objectives. So even Senai, which is, it doesn't have a specific focus with regard to industrial applications, but its idea is to provide resources to industry and not for instance, basic research. And in the specific case of this machine, in fact, Cinematec will have two machines. The biggest machine, which is this one, the second one hasn't been set up yet, has the specific purpose of providing resources to a joint project between Cimatec and the British gas company, BG. So I cannot run my models there, for instance. We also have other initiatives in Brazil that, CINAPAD is not the only HPC resource provider in Brazil. We also have other initiatives. We have the Galileo network, which is now done, basically, which was a project from Petrobras to provide universities with HPC resources and allow them to develop research of interest to the oil and gas Brazilian company, the Petrobras company. Also Grid Unesp, which is basically a computational grid with some clusters that are to provide resources to projects where Unesp, the state University of São Paulo, is involved. So again, resources which have specific purposes and are not for the open Brazilian community. How about the other users? We have big projects, for instance, in nanotechnology, in astronomy, with big interactions with US and Europe projects. Energy and materials, for instance, we have our own synchrotron radiation source program, and they have a huge amount of things to be processed, of data to be processed. They look at us, they look after, they go for resources at the CINAPAD system, and okay, we can provide you some tens of teraflops, but it's clearly not enough. And well, I can keep on mentioning loads of different initiatives in Brazil which need HPC resources. If you only think of one specific Brazilian project, which is the INCT initiative, the initiative of the Ministry of Science and Technology and Innovation to to build network of excellence in various application domains. We can see, for instance, drug design, which is the INCT Innofar. We have e-health, for instance, the INCT MEC. We have online social network analysis, which is the INCT InWeb. So we have, in fact, we have 116 INCTs, most of them in desperate need for HPC resources. They, of course, can use the money from their projects to buy machines, their own machines. But if you don't think cooperatively, all projects will buy small machines to run small problems. You don't really do big, really science with those machines bought individually by each research group. So what happens is that some users go on their own, as for instance INCT projects buying their own machines. Some of those are very kind and share their resources with the rest of the Synapad's users. For instance, we have the National Laboratory for Bioinformatics, which is hosted at LNCC, and also INCT MEC, which is also hosted at LNCC, which have bought machines from money from their projects, but allow other users out of the project to use, with low priority of course, to use their resource. But when those guys really, when they need really huge amount of computational resource, what they do? They make associations with groups from abroad, for instance, Argonne, and run their things there. So it's not all data that you would like to put in Argonne and analyze there. So there is a question also of intellectual property, of sovereignty. So it's something that needs to be taken into account. Another important question about the Synapad system: has e-technology and innovation been really done in Brazil? Science, yes, we have very interesting and very important projects, but how about the last mile? Well, when you see the usage of the Synapad system dividing by those three sectors, industry, universities, and research units, we see that the industry, and when I talk about industry here, is joint projects between universities or research units and companies. We see that the Synapad system is used by this scenario in 7%, best case. When we think about e-innovation and e-technology and e-innovation, we also think of initiatives such as this one from US, where they put a 5 petaflop system available for companies in US to develop solutions. So this is a snippet of the text from this news. Companies can use the government system for proprietary work in exchange for covering their fair portion of the operating costs of the computer centers. Can I do that in Brazil? Well, we would do a lot of gymnastics because of our regulatory policies to do that. It would be very, very difficult. I wouldn't go into the details of our regulatory policies. I would spend here 3 hours talking about the difficulties, and the joint project between Brazil and BU is an explicit example of those difficulties. But then, summarizing our current status, we have growing demands both from small users but also and especially from big users. The current infrastructure is too small for both really big science and also industrial applications. And regulatory policies hamper alternative initiatives, for instance, for self-sustainability, to allow the Synapad system to receive money from provisioning services and allow it to grow without only government putting money into the Synapad system. So, Is there light at the end of the tunnel? Or, or, but, as a famous Brazilian philosopher, which everybody here knows, which is Ronaldo Fenômeno, he said that eu sou brasileiro e não desisto nunca. I'm Brazilian and I'm not going to give up. So you can understand this white bird, what you think of the Brazilian bureaucracy or whatever. And I'm here. But the Brazilian is also very positive and persistent. So we kept on trying to do things, and we have arrived at some interesting outcomes. For instance, the deployment of an industrial Cinepad in the Cimatec, as I've already mentioned, which is in Salvador, Bahia. It's a nice, gorgeous place in the northeast of Brazil. Also a good way to attract companies. The place is very nice. They have two up 100 teraflop machines, a bigger machine with 400 teraflops, which is specific for a project, a joint project with BG, and a smaller one of the order of 100, 150 teraflop, which is still being set up, which is to provide access to other industrial partners within the framework of the Cinepad system. Another good news is the deployment of a PET scale facility in Brazil, which is in fact a Brazilian and French project, which I think is the main reason for myself being here, to provide you with our experience with this joint project, being LNCC and BUL as the key partners in this project. The original idea of this project would be to provide a new tiered organization of the Cinepad system. Today, the Cinepad system doesn't have a tiered organization. Basically, all centers have the same, let's say, approximately the same size with the same responsibilities. And the idea is to provide something a la Praise, similar to Praise, by having a bigger machine and smaller, but at the order of hundreds of teraflop machines, and a tier 2 with the regular machines that we have today. For the Cinepad system, we have two tier 1 facilities being set up, one at Senai Cimatec, as I've already mentioned, and another one at UFRJ, and the tier 0 would be will be hosted at LNCC. But for providing the Brazilian community with HPC machine from the point of view of the Ministry of Science, Technology, Innovation, it's just not a matter of buying the machine. The ministry has put it quite clear in the beginning of the project that it was not just the acquisition of an HPC machine, but also provide Brazil with capability for developing technology related with HPC. So let's say the last shape that we arrived at for this project was, besides the installation of a petaflop machine at LNCC, also the installation in Brazil of an HPC research center and of an HPC application center for industrial services. And also some sort of technology transfer by means of planning to build HPC systems within Brazil. But well, what I'm shown in the previous slide is what is the basic outcome of the project, but the project had a long history, which I try to present to you in a nutshell. Well, The Brazil-France Science and Technology Agreement was signed in September 2009. So it was reinforced in December 2012. Do you know the day, Albert? 7. The project was finally approved at the end of 2013, and the idea was build to provide and build to LNCC a 2.5 petaflop system. During discussions with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, some adjustments for including technology transfer in February 2014. The contract signature was planned for March 2014 with a budget for the project of around 120 million reais, which is about 60 million euros, dollars, American dollars. But federal budget restrictions forced the renegotiation, and in July 2014, finally, Sinapado and the LNCC and BUL were informed that 60 million reais would be made available. So we had to renegotiate with BUL, went through a smaller machine, but with a very interesting architecture, with hybrid thin node cluster nodes, with CPU, GPU, Xeon PHYs, a single fat node with a huge amount of memory capacity to be delivered by the second quarter of 2015. Also, as part of the project, something that, in my personal opinion, by putting the research hat, is crucial for the success of this project, as e-science support center that allows the users to take profit, to take benefit from the machine that is being made available to them. The counterpart from BUL is the development of research center in Petrópolis, which this research center is different from this support center in the sense that the idea here is to develop HPC technologies which will make better solutions for the applications to be ported through this support center to this new machine and to the new technologies that are to come. Also an application center in Rio de Janeiro for providing industrial services, pretty much aligned with the idea of what Cimatec is doing. And the technology transfer for manufacturing in Brazil, of course, has been due to the huge cut that we had in the budget, has been postponed to a second phase, yet to be defined when to be run. So the final message here is the path may be tough, but we think it's worth, and because of that, we've been working a lot to make things happen. A lot of people from the French embassy in Brazil helped us to make, and also from the Brazilian Ministry of Foreign Affairs also helped us a lot to make things happen, and make the Ministry of Science and Technology aware of the importance of this project for the Brazilian community, and show especially how this sort of technology is transversal to the many different priorities that the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation have put to the Brazilian community as strategic and as priorities for the development of the country. So, finalizing with something that for now is a wishful thinking, but I think it would be nice to have also in our country, providing HPC as a service to the Brazilian academic and industrial community, but we still have a long path to arrive to this. Even in US and in Europe, this thing is something that's being still built. So thank you a lot, gracias, obrigado for your time. Questions?
Antonio, muito obrigado.
Then I,
You have at CINEPAD this big amount of regional local centers in order to have that across your big country. What is the connectivity among those centers? I mean, what is the bandwidth and so on?
great question. Which I should have shown in the proper slide, but I was afraid of the time. Sorry. It's here. So the Brazilian connectivity from the academic point of view is provided by the Brazilian NRN, which is RNP, Rede Nacional de Pesquisa, de Ensino e Pesquisa. RNP has three main rings of the order of 10 giga, 25 giga, and they are updating it. I don't know the current figures. The last one I knew was 25 gigabits. 25 gigabit ring between the main capitals, Rio, São Paulo, Belo Horizonte, and the Northeast. The same to the south of Brazil, and a third ring which joins Brasilia. All of those three rings, which are in red here, are 25 gigabit connections. And we have the regional connections, which range from 1 giga to 10 gigabit connections.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could you explain a little bit more about just your perspective of the e-science for Brazil? I know that this kind of e-science in Europe is working fine, but how is vision for Brazil? What is the vision in this case for you?
My vision?
Yeah.
My vision is this one. Well, we have some amount of resources which will be considerably improved in the next few months with the Petaflop project. But the sort of hardware technology that has been historically employed and is going to be deployed with the Petaflop system together with BOO, it's the sort of technology that is very good for specific sorts of, particularly good for specific sorts of applications, for instance, computational fluid dynamics, some solvers that use finite element methods, finite volume methods, things that in the end need computational resources, but also very good interconnects. Or huge amount of memory. There are some applications, for instance, bag of task applications that of course can use those resources as well, but they are competing against applications that are in more desperate need for good interconnects and a huge amount of memories than those bag of tasks applications. So the idea of providing a science infrastructure in Brazil and the eScience Support Center would have also this aim at allowing that all sorts of applications be well provided with resource in Brazil, is to think of other non-conventional resource provisioning, such as, for instance, using private clouds that are being spread throughout the universities, or the Brazilian companies, for instance, Serpro and Dataprev, which are big government companies. We have a joint project with them to develop a private cloud technology for them, and also allow their surplus amount of resources being used by, for instance, the Brazilian research community. And all other sorts of, for instance, opportunistic resources from labs So you have classrooms full of machines that are used for 1 hour for giving class, but the rest of the day are not used. So we have Brazilian technology developed for that, and we've already integrated that with our infrastructure, and we have now a project, a joint project between Brazil and European the European Commission, which is called EU-Brazil Cloud Connect, whose the idea is to extrapolate this infrastructure, allowing also that European resources, for instance, at the Barcelona Supercomputing Center is part of this project. Universidade Politécnica de Valência, Amsterdam, and many other partners that are working together to develop this sort of technology to allow for a more massive and more heterogeneous amount of resources being provided to the community. And above that, of course, you cannot just offer a virtual machine to the scientist and say, okay, we've integrated everything, here's the machine and do your SSH and désolé. It's not something that we intend to do. So the idea is to develop also higher level technology to allow the users to get to those resources in a more opaque, more user-friendly way. This is how we are set up in the e-science ecosystem in Brazil.
One more question, Antonio. You also mentioned something about many of your users going abroad to make use of resources instead of going inside Brazil.
Not instead of going inside, they don't have inside, so they
Oh,
don't have.
yeah, but also there's this, and I want to ask you, what are the strategies within Cinepad to build trust among the different users and centers? Because many times what happens is that because some of the scientists studied and got their degrees abroad, that's why they go abroad, because they don't trust their nationals, so to speak.
When you mean trust, you mean reliability, not...
Confianza.
I wouldn't... It depends on what you mean, confiança or trust. If it's related with security,
No. Really.
You mean reliability. The fact that you have 99.999% reliability.
No, not really in that sense. Sense of that you trust your colleagues to be able to respond to your needs. To confidence or.
I think you have to elaborate on that, but
Okay.
we can discuss during
Sure.
the coffee. Sorry, because I didn't get your point, and perhaps you are going to.
Can I try to help?
Yeah, sure.
We are entering in a phase of a more complex phase, that is to make all this complex system, because today is already complex, the Cinepad network. There are several aspects in the application domains that needed more disciplines, needed to be designed to build this. Maybe is what you mean, confidence between the corporations and so on. There are still a process to be done that will involve security, will involve processes, will involve corporations, and is scheduled to be covered in the next steps. It's extremely important that but there are several aspects we are touching. One is this ecosystem for applications, The other one is how to use the systems. There are disciplines like access control, security, and others. Okay, but there are several points that are still needed to be studied more deeply, because look what we have today here is 12 centers working more or less separately, and now we'll be connected, and this changed the way to work. Okay. I don't know if I help with a little bit in with the answer. Okay, but this is on the schedule, is on the road.
So, I think so. Thank you.